And inside Michigan Recruiting Barbecue at the Big House Edition, it is a wrap. And so we feel like it's only fitting that we wrap things up by looking back on everything that we've learned over the course of 2 days of visitors to the TMI studio where, what do we have? 17, 18 guys, not counting the current players, guys, who came in, just the recruits.
Yeah.
It's like almost 20 guys who came in. We learned a lot, talked to a lot of sources as well. This was a pretty eventful weekend for the Maize and Blue, Steve.
Probably the most eventful, right? I mean, we reported heading in, I know not every single kid on the list shows up, but I think there was over 30 top target types, over 25, 26 4-stars in the 26 class alone. Most of those guys did show up. Michigan obviously made moves, as you already know if you're on the site, or you'll find out very, very shortly. So, yeah, overall, I guess the biggest thing, you can tell that the overhaul of the recruiting department for Sharon Moore is already starting to pay dividends, right? This was maybe their first big test since they finalized that stuff. Feels like they really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I think so too. That's one of the things you've been talking a lot about, right?
Yeah, and you could see it. I mean, again, this was instead of a one-day event, this was a 3-day event, and you had some guys come up here 3 days. Jayden crept in. Sean Scott told me he was here for 3 days, and again, every day they did something new. It was very enjoyable, and like I said, we had so many guys in here and so much intel. So again, definitely stay tuned to the board because we got a lot, especially just a recent crystal ball by Sam as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's just. And that's the 26. There's so many 26s. They did a tremendous job. Shout out to Kaylee Johnson, who this was her first barbecue at the Big House. I think she smashed it in her role as director of on-campus recruiting. You could tell how well that went. And then, just like you said, I mean, the entire recruiting operation. They had this vision. Sharon had a vision of how it would work, where you had Sam Popper, who had tentacles. Now Sam has tentacles, right? You got an assistant director on offense, an assistant director on defense, and then you have field guys for each coach that are operational. Then now you can see, feel, and touch so many. So I remember a time where you would have 26s and 27s that would come on campus and they would feel like, I'm not getting any attention. I'm not, right. Why am I here? And we just talked to Trey Taylor, and one of the things, he's a 27 quarterback. And one of the things that struck me, he was like, I come here and it's never like, I don't get any attention. It's like, why did I make this visit? I'm a 27 and they act like I'm not here. That didn't happen. And that only is the case when you have enough staff to make sure that there's enough attention to go around.
The no attention was not even close to a factor, I feel like. I mean, at least every kid that came in here and just others that we've already reached out to, well taken care of. The other thing, too, big takeaway for me, I don't know about you guys, the Trey Taylor stuff was very impressive for a 2027, right? But even sort of along the same lines, not only is Brady Hart impressive as well, but you can tell he's got that pull and that cornerstone type vibe as a quarterback commitment in this class, right? We had Mason James in here, a 4-star from Norman, Oklahoma, not an area where you really feel like Michigan is ever going to be much of a factor. He loved his visit. Brady Hart was like one of the first things he pointed out as far as what really stood out, getting to work out with Brady Hart, getting to know him. He said pick his brain, stuff like that. So, we talk about JJ back in the day. Yeah. We talk about guys like, I know he wasn't as highly ranked, but even like a Wilton Spate, like these quarterbacks who are like can become the face of the class that will recruit their butts off to try to build a great class. Brady Hart is definitely going to be that for Michigan. So, great player, but also going to be a very visible face and like cornerstone of the commitment class.
I don't know if you guys got the same feel, but sitting here talking to Brady Hart, you get that JJ vibe off of him. For real. I'm talking about person and a dude who just gets it. Like, there's the job of being a quarterback. I got to throw the ball. I got to call the plays. I got to make the audibles and all of that. But then there's the leadership aspect of the position. The how you carry yourself to lead others. And then I got to recruit the class. All of that. He gets all of that. The dude is just going into his junior year. Like, he gets that in a big way, and he gets it at an earlier age than the other guys that Kirk Campbell was recruiting. I'm going to keep coming back to that. I think that was a piece of settling on Brady Hart as the guy. He jumped in as a true sophomore. This is not to disparage the other guys that Kirk was recruiting in that class. Those are very talented quarterbacks. But if you look at Brady, Brady's a year younger than all of those guys. And he went in and got it done as a sophomore, and then he's still showing the same level of maturity, and he's going out there and getting it done a year younger and feeling it. And that way you feel like there's even more upside when a guy gets it at a younger age like that, Bryce.
And not only that, you know, one of the portions with this barbecue was kind of working these guys out, getting to see what they can do in action, working with potentially their future coaches. And everything we heard is Brady Hart, look, absolutely the part. 5-star. This is a guy that's going to be, I think, in my opinion, one of the top quarterbacks when it's all said and done in the 2026 cycle. And not only that, but we had about 20, like you said, 20, 25 kids or whatever come in. Best interview by far was Brady Hart. And second might have been Trey Taylor, another quarterback.
Man,
So-
I was amazed. So, listen, you know, I'm hesitant to interview guys that young. We do it some because Michigan, like I interviewed Bryce Underwood that young because he had an offer. Like, you know, when they lay down an offer that young, you have an obligation to talk to a dude. But how much and on what platform? I mean, are you putting a camera in front of a guy, talking to him that young? Occasionally, we do. I've done that with a couple of guys in this cycle. I was a little reluctant to do that here barbecue weekend, but I got to give Bryce the credit. He said, "Hey, let's do Trey Taylor." I said, "Okay, we'll do Trey. He'll be the only one that we do." Man, you wouldn't know Trey. You would not know when you watch this interview that Trey Taylor is a 2027. That kid sounds like he's about to be a friend. Not looks like, and not sounds like in the tone of his voice, but in the content of what he has to say. The dude, Steve, sounds like he's about to go to college.
And I was like, I feel like I should ask him for some advice. You know, that was kind of like one of the things I was thinking watching him and his family talk or whatever, even when he walked in and was waiting, you know. But no, another one though, you get that JJ. You really, and not to like say that the funny thing is there's not a lot of kids out there that are like that, but it goes to show not just the type of player Michigan likes to recruit, but the type of person that they prefer to try to recruit, right? I mean, we see that. We were talking about that yesterday with some of even the commitments that were in here. There's just a way they carry themselves. There's a personality that Michigan really seems to be attracted to. They were under Jim. Clear it's still going to continue under Sharon. And, you know, yeah, but yeah, no, I mean, some of these kids are just mature beyond their years, though. I mean, there's just no way around it.
Well,
so.
there's a medal that comes with that. There's a medal that translates to when adversity hits in the field of play that, you know, hey, I'm ready for it. Like, I can handle that. When you get a kid like a Brady Hart who shows just maturity beyond his years, when they get in the fight, they're ready for it. It feels like that's going to be how Trey Taylor is, right? I mean, you know, there's a type. They do have a type. I agree with that. I thought the Phillip Wright visit was, and it wasn't just Phillip. It was Phillip and crew.
And crew.
It was his dad, his teammate. I mean, it was a crew.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting to see people's reactions to the Phillip Wright recruit. I'm curious because we even us, we have differing views.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, we do. Well, I think we do actually. Yeah, you're right.
We have differing views of
All three of us.
All three of us do
Yeah.
of that recruitment. So
Yeah.
let's go across this. So give your take on the Phillip Wright recruitment and where it is.
You know, my take on that recruitment was he took that trip to LSU, and the next step was, is the committed guy to Michigan gonna make it to Michigan for the barbecue? The answer was yes. He did make it in. A lot of fans were wondering, and hitting the F5 on their keyboards is refreshing. Is he here? Is he here? He was here. He had a good time. He did connect with Ron Bellamy, the wide receivers coach. But I would say probably after hour after that interview we did with him, he got a scholarship for track to LSU. And that's another feather in the cap for the Tigers and trying to keep him home. And just the vibe I got was I don't think this is a Raylan Wilson situation. As much as I initially had pointed that out, I don't think it is. But this is going to be one I still believe it's going to be very tough to hold on to him. As much as it was to get him on campus and how good that was, this is one that's going to go all the way till signing day. That's just my opinion.
Steve?
Yeah, Destrehan. We talk about Justin Jefferson's alma mater. Michigan's got to hammer home the point that LSU did not see him as a first-level option, right? That's got to be they've got to just keep going with that because to me, it's going to be very difficult, obviously. LSU has Bryce Underwood committed. That was the big draw for Derek Meadows, I think, who, again, different type of receiver, but receivers want to play with like a big-time quarterback. Bryce Underwood, number one player in the country. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get kids out of Louisiana, period, let alone you're seeing an all-out assault by Brian Kelly and staff, right, with Phillip Wright. So I don't know. I think it's going to be tough. They better have some names in their back pocket, which I'm sure they do. But yeah, that the fact that he was, again, it was great, not only that he showed up to Michigan this weekend, but that he even came in here, too, and did the interview. I think that does say something about his commitment to Michigan. It'll be easy for him to just shy away and not want to speak publicly about Michigan right now and all that kind of stuff if he's coming straight from Baton Rouge. But either way, I think it's going to be tough to hold on to him. I mean, it's just because the other thing is, so I did read he measured in at 6 feet at LSU, right? And he's already got the track times. We've seen he's got the Xavier Worthy build, in my opinion. LSU's not going to go away anytime soon, that's for sure. So,
yeah. 10.38 100-meter time. You know, if you operate from the premise that not Ohio State, but that LSU, that the assault was going to be unrelenting, then the fact that he made the visit is a victory. Now, I'm talking about the Michigan visit. How can they? That's a low bar. No, it's not. It's not a low bar.
nice.
Not in this recruitment.
When he committed to Michigan, we said at that point, the recruitment begins now.
Yep.
LSU is coming. They tried extremely hard to get him to delay announcing that commitment, and he did it anyway. That was hurdle number one. But they made it clear. Oh, we're still coming. He's a kid from Destrehan. To Steve's point, he's got to listen.
Yep.
He's got to listen. Like, it's like you have no choice. And so you got these two things, these two voices kind of talking to him, like Justin Jefferson, Destrehan, I'm from Louisiana. I mean, it's not just Justin Jefferson, it's Jamar Chase, it's Odell Beckham. I mean, it's all these dudes that just Malik Neighbors, all these dudes, all these receivers that have gone to LSU that get it done. How can I not go to LSU? But then there's this other voice that says, man, they just played me second fiddle. They wanted DeCorian Moore. That's who they wanted. They didn't want me. They made it very clear that DeCorian Moore was number one on their board. And then when DeCorian Moore left, then they wanted me. Now I'm hot. Now I'm fast enough. Now I'm the guy on their board. Now I'm number one receiver for them. Now I look good with Bryce throwing to me. Now, not then. So, okay, which voice do I listen to?
Right.
Do I listen to, they got all the receivers? They do. You got to give them credit. They produced all these receivers. Or do I listen to the voice that said, I want to rock with who rocked with me? Michigan rocked with me from the beginning. They were on me saying, I'm the guy that they want right now. When all these other guys are on the board, they're chasing me. That's what Michigan was saying. That's what Ron Bellamy was saying. And so that's why I think even after they go on the visit to LSU on Friday, they still hop the plane and come up here. And they still, that's Ron is our guy. We're still rocking with Michigan. We're still committed. We're gonna see this out. We're gonna recruit for Michigan. They're still listening to LSU.
Right.
But we're still committed to Michigan. So I look at it this way. I don't think he's locked into his commitment. Let's be frank. But I don't think he's leaning to decommitting either. I think that Michigan has some very clear things they need to do to hold on. I think, number one, they can't be out NIL'd here. And I think that Michigan is in a position now where they don't have to be out NIL'd. You know, we got the season 2 behind the uniform going on, right? And so one of the things that, if you watch the episode with Colston Loveland, Colston makes it he lays it down. He said, man, there's an NIL at Michigan before the national championship, and there's an NIL at Michigan after the national championship. And he said the NIL at Michigan after the national championship is different. He said, it's absolutely. He said, now they're taking care of us. So he said, so shout out to everybody. He said, shout out to everybody that's taking care of us. So it's different. So Michigan doesn't have to be out NIL. And then they can't get beat on the other aspects of things. So you see, man, LSU was blowing up the dudes. Come on, man. He's on the visit. LSU was blowing. They blowing him up while he's up here, right? He gets the LSU track offer while he's up here. So they're pulling out all the stops. Same stops got to be put out here. Like, you know, Michigan's track coach and team can't be bystanders in this. They got to be on the job too. The dude runs a 10.38.
I was just gonna say they should be sprinting to him to get him a track offer. Like, it should be a no-brainer.
Right.
So.
The dude runs a 10.38. I mean, you're not doing football any favors by extending the offer, right? So you're like, it has to be a group effort, because this is a guy who I think, as much as we say all of these players, they're best footballers ahead of them. Like, this dude is a guy who has a lot of upside. Like, he's rated a 3-star, and I'm like, dude, what are we doing?
Like I said, there was a clip on his huddle from last year. If you go back and look, I think it was like the second or third play. Literally identical route, catch, and play to a play in Xavier Worthy's senior tape. Literally the exact same play. And it's like, if anyone remembers, Xavier Worthy was an 87 for a long time. It was like, this kid's not a 3-star. Phillip Wright is a little raw, right? He's not a polished product yet. But I don't think Xavier Worthy probably wasn't a polished product at that time, right? No. 10.5, 10.4. I mean, he was super fast, too. That's why he got recruited. But, I mean, now, the other thing, too, I wonder if you guys agree. I think if I'm Michigan, the other thing I'm hammering home is the timing of LSU going all of a sudden. They wait until he commits to Michigan all of a sudden. It's one thing that they are saying, hold on, hold off. But to just unleash all of this right after they commit just reeks of, like, desperation on their part to, like, try to get back in this one, which, again, I think either way, they were probably going to stay in this one because it's a Louisiana kid from LSU. But to me, that's another thing from Michigan. I'm like, okay, we get it that they were kind of slow playing a little bit, but for them to wait for him to commit to us, and now all of a sudden you're throwing out a track offer, all this stuff, it's like, I'd be wondering where that track offer was 2 months ago.
Yeah, I think another thing that people are misreading is this notion that his family is really pushing for him to stay home. I think they're pushing for him to make the best decision for him. I think they're pushing for that.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think they're pushing for him to stay home. I think they'll rock with what he wants to rock with. And if that's Michigan, they'll rock with that. I got that vibe really, really clear from his dad, who was like, look, this is what he wants, this is what I want. And that's real. Now, you know, but he was very real. They're going to listen to LSU, which I get it. How can you not? That's the other thing. You know, if you're from a fan perspective, sometimes you got to take the fan glasses off a little bit, and you got to be like, look, man, it's a Louisiana kid from Destrehan. Yeah, he committed to Michigan, but you understand when they come, he's at least going to listen to that. But he didn't decommit he didn't decommit. He still came on it. You know they didn't want him to come up here on a visit right after.
And that's what I was going to say. I think for him going to LSU beforehand and then making that trip to Michigan, like Steve said, even coming here, he didn't have to, but he came here, talked to us about Michigan. His family and friends had talked to us about the vibe and how everything went. You don't think LSU tried for him not to come to Ann Arbor, Michigan? They said, why are you going to pay? Because this was unofficial. This is not like this was a free trip for him to just, check out, stay at the hotel, get some free food, whatever. No, he paid. His family all had to pay for everything to come up here again. So,
Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking about this because this is a bigger recruitment than his ranking would indicate.
100%.
It's a bigger recruitment than his
100%.
ranking would indicate, and I think he's a better player than his ranking currently indicates. I don't think it'll be like that before all is said and done. But there were other noteworthy guys that came through. Another Bryce called Leo Delaney. Leo Delaney, I thought was a really intriguing guy who came through here, for sure.
Yeah, top 100 offensive. I want to say tackle. We have him listed. I think Steve said a defensive lineman.
Don't ask me.
But anyway,
he's a
I don't
tackle.
know. He's a tackle. He's probably 6'8", 275. I don't know what he's listed at, but that's probably what he looks at. Impressive individual.
Most entertaining interview, maybe?
Well, his
One of
dad's
the
a
top 2 or 3.
Yeah,
Probably maybe the top though.
his
Yeah.
dad's a theater major, so I mean that
True.
kind of probably helps.
Who went to Ohio State and said, nah, I don't like it here. Let's get on out of Dodge.
Went to Wayne State. Then he went up. To
Yeah.
Wayne State. So yeah, I mean, and he made a great point to me. I said, I heard that he might have been, leaning towards staying down south, and him and his father both looked at me in the eye and they said, "How many places have we flown to?" And I was like, "I'm not sure." He's like, "None other than Michigan. That should tell you what you need to know." And that spoke volumes to me, and even just the interview alone, just hearing him talk about Michigan and what all he likes, the Joe Moore Awards, the offensive line tradition. He's got a great relationship with Grant Newsome, who's been killing it. He's had probably half the top 247 offensive linemen up on campus this weekend. So that's another guy. I think Michigan's just stock went through the roof for him.
What about the Texas kids, the 2 Texas, 4-star guys that aren't committed, but feels like Michigan is looking really good for, really, really good for one and really good for the other.
Yep. So we're talking about Jayden Krempin, who's another 4-star out of Texas, right? A little underweight. Like he's more of your frame that you're eventually going to build into an elite tackle type. I know you talked to him. I was also able to find out A, Michigan loves this kid, and B, the feeling is very mutual, right? So he's a guy that we'll be probably talking a lot more about as the months continue. I believe he did say he'll be back on campus.
Arkansas State game.
Arkansas, yeah. I mean, if you're coming back for that game, you're very interested in Michigan, right? So,
Yeah.
top target for them. And then Felix, I don't know if it's Ojo. Is it Ojo?
I'm
We're going to go with
Ojo.
OJO. Michigan offered him yesterday.
Yep.
Another very raw. We posted on the board that we thought that we were expecting Michigan to offer. And shout out to our board. We got some guys on there that love watching offensive line. Said very, very raw, but extremely strong and aggressive. Like basically a guy, if they develop him properly, is going to be a beast. So with him, much more national recruitment is so far at least, as far as I think where his interests lie. Do think, again, coming up on your own dime as an unoffered kid who had 30 plus offers already says a lot about your interest. But yeah, I think another one that I think we're going to see Michigan on for the foreseeable future. It's going to be interesting. 2026 offensive line, there's a lot of dudes that Michigan is in on. You talk about Grant Newsome doing a great job. Really interested to see kind of how they work their board because, yeah, I mean, to add on about Delaney too, not only a great interview and funny, but physically probably the most impressive. That kid is built like a tank, but doesn't look like he's like a tank necessarily. Like he's just a stout dude, and yes, was taller than I think we even have him listed. So be interested to see where he measured in at. But yeah, another guy. All 3 of those guys will be top targets.
Yeah, and then in the 25 class, Bryce, a couple of Texas guys that Michigan coming out of this weekend, they got to be really super confident about, wouldn't you say?
Top 100 wide receiver Andrew Marsh, a guy that's been to campus probably as many times as Steve and me. I mean, he's been up here a lot. We asked him, we were like, "How many times have you been here?" He's like, "I don't even know at this point. It's been that many." And for him to come up to the studio, not only was he excited, his mom was also extremely excited. I mean, it was everyone was excited.
His whole family came.
And there was tons of excitement. But that's a guy that Ron Bellamy from that Sound Mind, Sound Body camp at Wayne State planted that seed and has been just watering it and nurturing that. And now, that wideout you thought from Texas that you thought not a shot Michigan's got it with. I think Michigan leads. I really feel really good about them. I had put a crystal ball on before this trip, and I feel even better about it. And then we also had one of the fastest risers this cycle, which is Jayden Sanders. Very impressive kid. He joked he's 6'1". I think he's a little taller than that, but that's me.
6'3".
I'm not someone that should judge on height, but
Right.
it's whatever. But
Hey man, this dude, I think he said he's 6'1" just so he could be able to say, I'm gonna be 6'2", just so he can show in a couple months he was 6'2", just to
Right.
mess with us, man.
Right.
I wish you could say I'm gonna be 6'2", and you could grow like that, because he is like I thought he was 6'3" as well.
he
It's
was
kind of annoying with these kids. You just have to keep going like this all the time when you're talking to them.
He's long.
Like Chase Taylor was another one where it's like he's even
Yeah.
taller than I realized he was. It's like, man. But yeah, Jayden Sanders, recently top 247 now.
yeah.
And I think we talked about it on the pod for the preview. Reminds me of JoJo Edmond as a guy who was already starting to kind of peak or head upwards in the rankings heading into his senior year. I think he's going to keep going. I mean, especially after seeing him fit, like he's got everything. Like he's 6'3", but not too super skinny. You know, like I don't think there's like that much of a building process for him physically. So, Michigan. That one, desperate might be putting it a little bit, but they need a corner.
Yeah.
This would be a great CB1 in my opinion. I know he's not like a top 100 or a top 50 type kid, but in my opinion, he's definitely a CB1 type for them. I think Michigan fans would be excited to land him. So
Yeah, and a guy whose physical upside, like some of these guys are closer to their physical peak, and he's not one of those guys. Like, he's gonna get in a college strength and conditioning program and really add a lot of explosiveness to his game potentially.
But I was gonna say, no, we're also gonna know soon where he's gonna go. He came in here and he gave us a date.
He did.
Not a timeline. He gave us a date.
He did.
We had a double check. It's August 10th, and it's between three schools. Initially, I didn't even think it was gonna be. It's gonna be Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Michigan. TCU's not in it. I'm sorry, TCU. They've been having a bad week.
TCU caught strays like you wouldn't believe in this
rough
this
weekend in the
weekend.
studio for TCU.
Yeah.
They caught strays. But you know what? I think Michigan is like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
We want TCU to catch some strays.
Yeah.
You know? For sure. But you know what? There's so much. I mean, we can only get into so much of the content here in a recap. This is just to wet your whistle. So much great content coming on the MichiganInsider.com from the barbecue. We have 10 episodes of Behind the Uniform to come. We've already shot 5 of them. We've had in studio Tyler Morris, Giovanni Ohadi, and then Colston Loveland came by. Zeke Berry came by. Who is the last one?
Alex Orgy.
Alex Orgy was terrific. And then you round things out with Will Johnson, Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, Will Johnson, and Rod Moore. And that's just the Behind the Uniform series. So if you don't have a subscription to the Michigan Insider, you are missing out. But Steve put in a call. And he said, listen.
11 o'clock last night.
11 o'clock last night. He said, listen, they, 24/7, they always do these preseason promos. Our people are going to be ticked off if we got all this great content coming up now, and then they come up with the preseason promo later on down the line. So let's see if we can get them the preseason promo early. Steve, you work some magic.
Got the okay. Yeah, it was pretty quick. Thankfully, our guys in California, that's why I was able to call them at 11 o'clock at night this time. 60% off, annual subscription, monthly upgrade available too. Our monthly subs, last promo we did, a lot of monthly people upgraded, which is great. Always $1 for the first month too. For monthlies, I always throw that out there because I think that's important. Some people don't want to jump all the way in, but I would jump all the way in. I don't know about you guys, but I would jump all the way in.
I would.
Yeah, right. But also, Paramount Plus. For any full-paying subscriber, you get free Paramount Plus. I found out that Paw Patrol is on. I know there's a lot of young parents, and that was the big thing on the board when we said free Paramount Plus was like, we were talking about what's the show? What's the one that you like, Sam? You always mention.
Oh man. Oh yeah, I like the Mayor of Kingstown.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
it's outstanding.
Really good. So I post on the board, and there's 5 people that are like, yeah, no, we get Paw Patrol. My kids love it. And I'm like,
Oh,
maybe
man,
we should
I
be
know that
talking
show
more-
too. Robo is on the double. Chase is on the case.
talking about Paw
Chase.
Patrol.
I know all of these. I know all of these shows.
Not
Trust
yet.
me.
Not yet. Not yet.
So yeah, so 60% off, and like Sam said, I mean, the amount of content that we're about to pump out off of this event is probably going to dwarf any barbecue we've done
Oh.
in the last 5,
Yeah.
6, however long they've been doing it. Honestly, there's already a lot of stuff on the board right now as you're hearing this, but there's so much more to come. So, and it's worthwhile because Michigan really did kill it this weekend. Not an exaggeration. So
Yeah, full staff effort. They all deserve a ton of credit from Sharon Moore, obviously, on down. I mean, it's pulled off like a coach who was an outstanding recruiter, had a vision of how recruiting should go, and is starting to execute it. I mean, obviously, anytime you have a new vision for how things go, it doesn't go perfectly about everything, but the big picture of it, this is how it's supposed to look, and this is how it's supposed to look. How Michigan did it this weekend.
yeah, no. So I mean, Jim wasn't Jim was Jim. He was great, but there were a lot of things I think recruiting wise we always would think that maybe if they tweak some stuff, could happen, and it was clear based on the direction they've taken that Sharon probably felt the same way. At least as we kind of transition into this new Big Ten, we're talking about NIL and stuff like there's some transition that needed to take place, and yeah, I think Michigan's done that under Sharon Moore, and like you said, Sam, it's because he's a guy who came in from Central Michigan and was immediately one of the 2 or 3 best recruiters on the staff. Took that next step as he continued, and here he is now running the program. So, recruiting is what makes a difference in these things. So,
Absolutely. So, folks, if you want to stay up to speed, take advantage of that great promo, 60% off an annual subscription. That gets you in now. If you want to just try us out, you can get in for $1 just for the tryout. It is upgrade. If you're a monthly subscriber, you can take advantage of upgrading that monthly to that 60% off annual. And if you're a full paying subscriber, this is an important note that Steve highlighted. He's like, well, what's my perk? You get Paramount Plus. The promo people don't get Paramount Plus. Paramount Plus is an outstanding perk for you full paying subscribers. So be sure to rock with us. That's how you show us the most love, is you get with us over on the MichiganInsider.com. And we get this, we're still going to do the Michigan Recruiting Insider later in the week. You might think this is the episode. This is not even that episode. This is just the barbecue recap. These guys are like, oh my God.
I did not. He did that.
I did.
I'll get my sound figured out.
Yes, we are getting Steve a microphone. They're like, you guys need to hire a producer. You guys understand how much we got going on?
Yeah, no,
We
A
got
lot.
a ton going on, but we're going to take care of that too. We promise you. Be sure to check with us the next time on the Recruiting Insider. For now, that'll do it. We're wrapping things up. Barbecue at the Big House version of Inside Michigan Recruiting.